Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with Why. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I wanted to come on and share something important before next week's episode drops. I recently recorded an interview with Pastor Jackson Lahmeyer, and I'm going to be very transparent with you. It was one of the most challenging conversations I've had to do on this podcast, not because he was unkind, but because we come from very different backgrounds and ideas, worldviews. And it is definitely a different lived experiences and different understanding of faith, spirituality, and what it means to be human. And so before that episode drops in podcast world, I wanted to come on and talk about that episode before you see it. When I finished the interview, I realized that I needed to create context before that episode is released. If you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, that episode's already live. And so I hope that if you've already watched that or yet if you haven't yet, you will give this episode a listen prior to that one, or at least come back and hear this one. So I hope you stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Welcome back. So I really wanted to get on today and talk about the episode that I had yesterday with Pastor Jackson Lahmeyer, and give some context as to what happened on that episode. I've kind of parsed out some things and written some notes, so bear with me while I find them. I wanted to talk about some things that I did not discuss with him. And yesterday was really, really tough on me. I feel like I failed. But at the same time, so many people have commented that, hey, you did this for a reason and it's important. And I agree with them. I woke up this morning a lot more clear-headed, still a little discombobulated. I thought that I was going to have someone on the podcast with me, and they had to cancel last minute for personal reasons. And I was ill prepared for what was about to transpire, because he is very well versed in the book of the Bible. And I don't necessarily pride myself on memorizing verses or lines. I pride myself on the spirituality and connection to source energy, to God, and the teachings of Jesus, and being a follower of Jesus and not necessarily what we would call Christianity maybe today. Some topics were brought up that were baffling to me, to say the least, wherein he described God creating government. And if God created government, then therefore we are to follow government. And so I did a little research. And one of the things that I was laying on the couch yesterday, beating myself up with, was, if that's the case, would you have been one of the people standing there watching Jesus be crucified? Would you have kept your mouth shut as Jesus was being hung on the cross, because the government was the one that put him there? And I'm so angry at myself for failing to ask that question, because I would have been very interested to see what he had said. Because what I believe that our government is doing right now is incredibly cruel. It goes against our Constitution of due process. And I do believe that anyone that is on board with what is happening right now is a cruel and cannot call themselves a follower of Christ. Looking at Jesus, if you just want to take him and his life and apply it to this situation that is going on right now, Jesus did defy and disobey the government and political authorities. In Scripture, it also portrays the government as corrupt, violent, and evil. In Acts 5:29, we must obey God rather than men. And I take my spirituality and my connection with God is very personal. I don't place any pastor or father or minister between myself and my faith. And if you know me, you also know that 100% of my daily interactions, the way I deal with life, is very faith based and not religious based. Um, and because of that, I lean into trusting and faith as an action and not as a noun. Um, and he really, the pastor that's on the podcast that will be coming up. Again, if you've already seen it, it is already live on video in a few different places. Um, he really leaned into God created government, and therefore we must follow the government and whatever the government is doing. And we need to remember that men and people are fallible, that governments are fallible. If we believe that God created government, then that means we must believe that God created all governments if we're going to follow that sort of tenant, if you will. And so all governments are just because they were created by God. We can't say God created just the United States government, and therefore we must follow just the United States government. That would mean that God created all governments and we must follow blindly what all governments do, no matter of their atrocities. And so his thinking and his argument is failed. It's broken, and it's not withstanding. And so I'm angry at myself for not having the words, because as he was speaking, I was so overwhelmed by the things that he was saying. And I think yesterday, as I was thinking about all of the things that he had said and the way I failed, or wasn't able to come up with the verbiage because so much was coming at me, I forgot that I have a platform to speak on it, and a platform of social media of, over 1 million followers, a platform of podcast, this one being the top 1.5% in the world, and that I am allowed to speak on these things on my own platform as I am doing right now. The other thing that I was really frustrated with myself, because I do see myself as an advocate for all people, is when I talked about the fact that I really try to test myself, I really hold my family's feet to the fire about this concept of whiteness and racial superiority, or checking myself on being a racist. And I really try to filter my words, my thoughts, my deeds through the concept that I was born in a white society, and therefore I have the propensity to have racial ideas and thoughts that I might not be aware of. And in so, when I was speaking, I said the words white culture, of which he grabbed onto and asked, like, what's so wrong with white culture? And so white is not a culture. It is a classified category of skin color. And when you say the words white culture, what you're actually doing is creating other other than white culture. White is not a culture, it is a color. Irish is a culture. A culture comes from values, things such as religion, norms, languages, traditions, of which white has none. You can be proud of your Irish heritage, your German heritage. You can be proud of your Swedish heritage, but white is not a culture, and it is a culmination of bringing together a skin color to create an otherness, which I completely and wholeheartedly find disgusting and racist. And so when he speaks about white culture as being something to be prideful of, what he's actually speaking about is otherness and creating an other than white people scenario. If you want to be proud of your Irish heritage, if you want to be proud of your Puerto Rican heritage, your Black heritage, those are very different things than white heritage or white values. They don't exist. It was created to exclude non-whites. The other thing that he said is he called Kamala Harris a Jezebel. And I was so taken aback when he said these things and said this, um, and then proceeded to talk about the fact that she had what appears to have been engaged in sexual activities to to raise in the ranks of her career. And this is such a cheap thing that so many people do, regardless of who you are. When speaking about women, we like to believe, and so often, that women get where they are in life because of their looks, whom they've slept with, whom they've had relationships with. And I can't find anything more disgusting to say about a woman, and I want no part of it. And I just want everyone to know that what he talked about on my podcast is quite the opposite of my beliefs and my belief systems. So these are just a few of the things that he and I discussed that I had such a hard time with last night. My daughter was so kind. She came here and she spent the night over here with me last night and was just very kind to comfort me in a time of just complete and utter meltdown, to be honest with you. So that all said, why the hell did I agree to do a podcast with this person? He came on under the auspice of discussing how the DOJ, the IRS, and the FBI has targeted Christian organizations. And he was in the Oval Office when they signed in Pastors for Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And mistakenly, naively, embarrassingly, I believed that there was a part of me that could reach him. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And it really allows me to realize that who I speak to on social media and in life, my job is not to convert. And that is what Christians, Christian nationalists and Christians that conquer places, who go and try to change people, that's what their job has been. And that is not my job. My job is to speak to people who resonate with my content, who resonate with the things that I say and speak about. And if one person hears something that they have never heard before, great. But my job was not to change this person. My job was not to combat this person. And my job is definitely, and was not, and never will be, to platform his way of thinking and the things that he believes, because they're destructive. The Christianity of 2025, it's even sticking in my throat, is not the Christianity of Christ. The Christianity of 2025 is here to embolden the government and make you feel good about what they are doing, as aligning themselves with an authoritarian regime that is going into neighborhoods, that is destroying families, that is using cruelty and destruction to hurt people. And none of that would Jesus co-sign. I don't care if you say that I am speaking for Christ, if you say I am speaking for Jesus, if you are saying that I'm speaking out against Christianity. This is not the Christianity that was ever meant to be in place It is a perversion of what Christianity been meant to be and will always be meant to be. Just because you slap the word Christianity on something and fill it with hate does not make it Christianity. By a leader that is so far from the description, from the ideal of what a follower of Christ would ever be in any way, shape, or form, is absolutely wild to me. And it's an embarrassment to the word. I'm appalled. And I am more than appalled. I am saddened to see people cheering on the taking away of SNAP and things that are here to help the working poor and people that are disabled and the like. And I do not co-sign any of it as being a follower of Christ. I don't know how we got here. Cruelty, the desire for revenge, the desire to be a law-abiding state over and above all else, over kindness, over decency and compassion and love. We're lost. We are lost. And I think that my sadness comes from the inability to articulate properly or reach people for them to see that they're putting racism and a tax break above compassion, grace, and common decency. Someone said on one of my videos recently that I committed social media suicide by talking about politics. And the video he commented on was one about the fact that such a large percentage of people that receive SNAP benefits are actually the working poor. And I remember doing an entire paper when I was in college on the working poor and how those people, the people that are receiving these benefits, are the working poor. I did another video talking about if a career, if a job is valuable, if you need someone to work at a gas station, if you need someone to stock shelves, then why do you think that it's okay that that person starves or is homeless or does without? And they said, well, it's easy to do those jobs. You don't need skill to do those jobs. But my comment back to you is, but those jobs are still necessary. And if they are necessary, then that means that they should be paid a livable wage. Because if they are not paid a livable wage, then you and I are funding the employees of Walmart, the employees of Amazon, who are the largest recipients of these benefits. We're paying for billionaires to not pay their employees. Period. End of story. And so many people will say, but you don't understand. If we raise the minimum wage, these businesses will go out of business. No, the CEOs and the owners will just have to have less than $40 million bonuses at the end of the year. I don't know where we are going. I don't know how we got to a place where we can look at our fellow humans and say, thank you for doing a job that I need done in my life. By you existing, you make my life easier, but go be poor, go be homeless, go hungry, let your children suffer while my kids take dance classes and have sports and have a good school. Thank you for doing your job, but too bad for you. You get nothing. When did we become that society? When did we become that selfish, that disgusting, that we have to have all of it while the other people that do their jobs have none? When I talked to Jackson Lahmeyer yesterday on the podcast, the episode that will come out after this, I was sickened by his tenacity and his emboldenedness to stand by an administration which is so broken and so cruel, and claim he doesn't know anything about ICE and what it takes to capture an illegal, and quote how fast they actually run. I think that you can't claim to not know what's going on and stand in the White House and say what a great guy Trump and his sons are, at the same time to plead that you don't know, to claim that you don't know all the ins and outs of what the very people you are standing next to, co-signing what they're doing. If you've voted for this administration, you better damn well sure you know what's going on. If you claim to be a part of what's going on, you need to know what's going on. You need to see kids being tear gassed, neighborhoods being disrupted, in people being deported to prisons where they're being abused, yet they've never lived in those countries in their whole life. The violence and justifying it all in the name of God makes me absolutely sick. I told him, I think I said it on the podcast, but I know I said it after we closed down in the back, what you guys can't see. I told him, I said, "What's your line in the sand for the Epstein files? What's your line? If he's in there." And his answer was, he is in there, but to what extent? I said, "If he's in there, you need to come back." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean if he's in there? If you mean if he's in there and it's proven that he was with young girls." I said, "Yep, you need to come back and you need to apologize." But it's not just the Epstein files. It's all of it. It's the money laundering. It's the selling out of the Oval Office. It's the financial gain because of where he sits at this point, he and his family. He can say he's not taking a salary for being the president, but his payout is way higher from the deals that he's making in the back end and on the sides. His Bitcoin thing that he's making millions and billions of dollars off of. You have to know the whole story to be able to co-sign all of it. You can't put your head in the sand and just be happy that you had a tax break this year because you make over $200,000 or whatever a year. It has to run deeper than that. Because racism and bigotry and cruelty are expensive. Cruelty is expensive. What's happening with the farmers is expensive. What's happening with defunding cancer research is expensive. You have to be able to co-sign all of it. Yesterday, I thought about not even putting out the episode and going through all the social media channels that have the live rolling and deleting it because I was ashamed. But the fact of the matter is no one's mind's going to be changed either way. Not really. He was cordial. He was polite. He was smart. He was concise. He knew all the right things to say. And I didn't, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing with my own ears. I was mesmerized by the lack of integrity. I was mesmerized by his inability to be honest. I said to him yesterday, do you think if Jesus was standing next to you, watching what is going on with ICE agents, do you think Jesus would say, oh, well, it's the government. God created the government, gas the children, fight them to the ground, smash their head in, shoot priests in the head. Do you think Jesus would just say, oh, well? And he stood by his guns and said, God created the government. He stood there and said that. And I don't know how. I don't know how you would ever think that being cruel, hurting people, communities, friends, people, for the equivalent of fishing without a license, because that's what being an illegal immigrant, as they say, that's the equivalent legal infraction is it fishing without a license? That's what we're doing to people, is tackling them to the ground for the infraction of fishing without a license, is coming to this country illegally. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. If you don't hear my words, I understand. If your ego is entangled with your vote, with your desire for law and order, for your desire to stop helping other countries, and you're unable to see the value of USAID, the value of farmers in the United States, the value of migrant workers coming in and doing jobs, the value of other religions being okay in this country outside of white Christian values, nationalism. That's on you. But I would hope that you take a minute. I would hope that you would sit with yourself and ask yourself truly, in the space of gray and not black and white, if you believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you are claiming to be a Christian, if you are claiming to be a good person, if Jesus were sitting next to you today, if he would co-sign what this government that was, quote, created by God, if you think Jesus would be okay with it. And if you are not a religious person, if you are a spiritual person, if you can lean into the fact that what we are doing as a country right now is abysmal, it is horrific. I hope you can go into next week's episode understanding that I was overwhelmed, underprepared for what I was about to hear, and naive that someone can hold their convictions in this in the face of truths and not relent, and that's what happened. I put this episode with him in my path to learn about myself, to learn what I don't know, to learn what I still need to know, and maybe to find my voice just a little bit more than I already have, because my voice is valuable. My love for people is valuable. My desire to do better every single day and make this world a kind, more loving place is valuable. That there is no place for hatred, for bigotry, for misogyny, for racism, for taking away the rights of people that don't look like me, that don't think like me, and don't live their life like me. That we can all exist in peace and harmony, and that my way, your way, his way is not the only way, that we don't have to be a homogenous group to make this world work in a beautiful way. I'm sure this won't be the last time that I am put into a situation that's challenging, where I may be out over my skis a bit. But I hope that next time I can sit back and regroup, find myself, find my words a little bit better, and not be overwhelmed by someone else's views. Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode. I did want to use my platform. I did want to use this episode to prepare you for what you're hearing next week, prepare you for what you hear if you go and watch that episode on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, so that you understand exactly what was going on and exactly who I am as a person. That when I sat back, when I was quiet, when I didn't articulate everything I wanted to say, it wasn't because I was co-signing. It was because I was overwhelmed and not prepared the way I wanted to be, which is my fault. When I woke up yesterday, I said, today's going to be an interesting day. And it was. But I survived. I woke up this morning. I opened up my computer. I had an appointment with a client. And here I am. And you can do the same thing too. We will do hard things. We will survive hard things. We will get through. We will come out better. And I wish all of you nothing but the best in everything that you do. And sending all my love, and I'll see you guys next week on that episode. Thanks. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again